Hello everybody. Today I'm going to respond to the request from those of you that would like to see how I sharpen plane irons. So let's not waste any time, let's take a look and see how it's done. I did the recording for the sharpening of this iron when I restored this Stanley number 2C that you see sitting right here. So you're going to get to see how it performed in the end. And right behind it is a smaller plane, the Stanley number 1. That was the one I restored just before the 2C. So let's learn how to sharpen irons. The first thing I want to do is use my homemade scraper. You can see what that is. I just burnished the edge so I can scrape off the rust but leave the patina. And we'll see how it works. So using the scraper with a burnished edge, an old sponge sander, and some 3/0 steel wool, you can remove the crud but not totally remove the staining that we call patina. It'll show up better after it's oiled and waxed. And here's a look at the back side. On the older cap irons, Stanley put bluing of some sort on them. The bluing on this one is almost completely there, a little bit missing towards the leading edge. You got to be careful. I just used the steel wool on the bluing to clean but not remove it. Then I always run the leading edge over my lapping sandpaper to make sure it fits flat on the iron for best performance. I use the 3M Super 77 multi-purpose adhesive sprayed on the back of 4 150 grit sheets of sandpaper, and then I stick it down to this what used to be a fireplace surround made out of marble or granite, not sure which, but it's a nice flat surface. This is where I get the initial bevel on the iron. I use the old bevel as the guide for what I do first. My sharpening guide is set up for about a 24-degree bevel, but this iron here has a bevel that's a lot flatter. So what I'm going to do is push that iron out further from the end of the sharpening guide and flatten the original bevel, and then I'll back it up to do the 24-degree bevel. And this is what I mean by extending it further out the front. And you can see the bevel on this iron is pretty flat. So by extending it out, I can clean up the bevel, make sure it's square, and then back it up to do a 24-degree second bevel on the front leading edge of the iron. This part of the sharpening is pretty straightforward. This paper's done several irons and lapped several planes, so it's pretty well worn. But I found the 150 grit cuts really good to get that initial bevel put on the iron. After you made a few passes, take a look at it, see how it looks, put a square on it, make sure it's square. That's what I'm going to do right now. You can square this edge right here, not the leading edge, but where the back of the bevel is. This iron is about a 32nd of an inch off square on this edge right here. So what I'm going to do is do some more strokes, putting more pressure on that side, and then check it again with the square. So you might be able to see it here. I've flattened out the leading edge bevel, all except for the very front edge now, and that's the edge I'm going to do to the 24 degrees. So I back the iron up. That's going to give me my 24. I eyeball square it, and when I start sharpening again on that leading bevel, I'm going to use the back edge that I already squared as my guide to make sure the front stays square. It's already taken it down almost completely. Just a few more strokes and it's looking pretty good. even the old 150 grit paper is doing a good job. Now some people like to nick the corners off. I don't do that. I leave that up to the next owner if they want to do it. There's a flea bite out of this one corner, so this would be a good candidate to do that on. But that's it for the initial setting of the bevel and the cutting edge. Now I move on to a different paper on a different sharpening station. To finish my sharpening, what I've done is I've glued 2 pieces of 150 grit to what is actually a gravestone. I bought this at a yard sale from a guy that makes headstones. This one was messed up, so he sold it to me really cheap, but it's a nice flat surface to work on. What I'm going to do is start with 1,000 grit, 3,000, 5,000, and then 7,000 grit paper. I buy this paper like 50 sheets at a time on eBay, and I use one sheet to sharpen maybe 10 or 20 irons, so it lasts a long time. And I don't do wet sharpening with it, it's dry. So let's see how it's done. Having reduced the bevel down to just the leading edge that's going to be sharpened, this part of it goes pretty quick because there's not that much metal that you're working with. Simple, just lay the 1,000 grit paper down, and I do about 40 strokes. After 40 strokes, I look at that leading edge because the 1,000 grit is where you want to take out any deeper scratches from the 150. I don't see any, so I finish it off by just sliding it left and right, maybe about 10 times. Then it's the same thing. Moving on to the 3,000 grit paper all the way down to the 7,000. So here I am with the 7,000 grit paper. It's the final sharpening. Same thing, about 40 strokes. I keep moving side to side across the paper. Then when I'm done, it's the left to right. And I found that I don't get that little microscopic burr that usually is on these things after sharpening. So there it is. The cutting edge is done, but now equally as important, got to do the back side. So the back side of your iron has to be dead flat. That's the only way that you're going to get really thin shavings. Normally I do this before I do the other sharpening that I did. Today I forgot, but I'm going to flatten it and we'll see if it makes a difference going in the backwards order. You can tell by the mirror finish on it when you've got it down to where it's supposed to be, even on this 150 grit. Then what I like to do is hit it this way, and that's just for looks. It gets your sharpening lines back arranged like they are when the iron's new. But when you're sharpening these things like this, it's obvious that it's had a good edge put on them, because when they're new, they don't have that mirror finish like what this will have when it's done. So that's good. Now I repeat the same process on the back side with the 1000 down to the 7000 grit paper to finish it. So here it is with 1000 grit. You can do circular motions, clockwise, counterclockwise, straight forward, back and forth. I haven't seen where it makes a difference. But until the end, I like to always go left to right till the end. Looking for a fresher side to the paper. It's seen a lot of use. When you're doing it, you'll see the fine scratches start to disappear. That's what you want. And the 1000 grit does most of that. So there it is with the 1000. Now it's time to move on to the other grits. So I'm finishing the job with the 5000 grit paper. So it's looking pretty good. We'll give it a test. Yep. No more hair. Well, it definitely looks sharp, but we won't know how sharp it is until we test it. Good look at the back side. So this iron is ready to go. So it was time to break out a new piece of walnut for the test drives. The one I've been using got a little bit thin. Got a new piece. The 2 1/4 is ready to go. If you remember the last plane that I test drove, it was the Stanley No. 1. And it did a fine job. So now we're going to try this too. Oh, just pop it right out. So, the old number 2C, it performs up there with the best of them. Got a whole pile of nice shavings on the floor. There she is. Happy with that one. So as you can see, it wasn't very hard to do. It's not rocket science. It only takes a few minutes to do an iron, and you can achieve some really good results using sandpaper. I have had no problems with it. I've achieved shavings down to 0.5 1/1000ths of an inch. So I'd say the proof is in the measurement. So thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. Bye.